Welcome to Mobile Armor Radio, the podcast for all things Mecha. Jumpship incoming.
Welcome to Mobile Armor Radio. This is episode 44. My name's Rob.
It's
Brian.
Quatro, I'm Chopper.
What were you starting to say?
Yeah, so you said episode 44, and I was going to go, that's Quatro in Spanish.
Well, I'm sure it's probably something else in Spanish if you actually say 44, not just 44. We don't know Spanish.
If you're talking street slang Spanish, it's Quatro.
There you go.
It's
the only Spanish
been
Tat
too
knows.
long since high school.
I took French in high school. I don't need no Spanish. I don't even know what it would be in French.
I always say the most important phrase to learn in any language is "I don't understand."
It would be, I think it's cat.
Well, so once again, if you're street, I guess.
If you're from Montreal, it's cat.
Montreal. Anyways, this episode has begun oddly, but we're in 2022. We're in February now, the shortest of our months.
February.
And it's cold. I don't know about you guys, but I'm freezing to death.
It is cold. I got negative 10 right now.
I'm still in the positives, but I think we're single digits.
How you're more north than both of us? How are you in the positive?
Michigan's kind of this weird amalgamation of like three different spaces that we'll draw weather patterns from. We'll get it from the north, we'll get it from the west, and we'll get it from the south. And that's where we always get the warm stuff in the middle of the winter.
Yeah, we got some Arctic blasts coming down. It's going to be like minus 30 Celsius, because we talked about Celsius, which is almost the same in Fahrenheit, actually. It's going to be freaking cold, so.
Yeah.
It's not good. Enough of the weather. Let's move on to the dropship.
Dropship?
Quatro.
Dropship landing.
And welcome to the dropship. This is where we talk about what we're working on or what we're doing hobby-wise. I don't know. It's the doldrums of winter. Either of you guys have done anything? I know Pat has done nothing. He's not at home.
So I'll tell you what, I'll start since I've got just so much going on.
Yeah.
I have literally done nothing because I am not even in my house right now. As we've talked to in the past, we finally got the rental started. We are now out of the house and living like a bunch of vagabonds.
He's living on the streets. That's why he says Quatro.
Yeah.
On the streets where he is from.
So, as far as working on any kind of mech thing, I have done nothing, but I've thought about it.
I mean, that's a good step. It's a good first step, thinking about it.
I thought about how nice it would be to have my stuff to paint and do stuff.
And then you're at home and you never do it, so.
Well, no, but now I'm sitting in someone else's home with a limited amount of things to do, and I'm like, damn, I could be painting or doing something.
It's kind of like Rick, who just had knee surgery and whatnot, and so he's all laid up, and he's like, so much of my stuff is down in the basement, and I'm up here in the living room. I can't get to it.
Oh, poor Rick. And okay, Brian, how about you? You done anything?
Well, I've been. In a way, I have been painting more, but it is for the fantasy side of things. I've been working on a Northern Alliance army for Kings of War, but in a tangentially related note, in kind of a kaiju stance. So my Northern Alliance army, I've been painting as Water Tribe from Avatar, because they're these kind of Eskimo like outfits and stuff like that. And I'm like, this would be really fitting for that theme.
Inuit.
Yeah, and with that, there you can get giants in that game. And I thought, what better Water Tribe themed giant than Avatar Korra from season 2 of Korra, where she goes full on like giant glowing kaiju to fight a monster dude in the bay of the city. So I stumbled upon a 3D print of a really neat like setup for her, and Rick
cool.
actually printed it off in resin for me. And like, not gonna lie, like it is a sweet figure to begin with, and it's the right height. Like it was perfect for the giant. The only downside is the base that it originally came with was this very like dynamic like round base that had like all the elements kind of swirling about, which would have been kind of crazy to 3D print to begin with. But also like in terms of the gameplay, that base went way over the dimensions that I had to work with. But that said, like that's one fun project I have coming up. It's kind of getting shelved a little bit as we start gearing up for Adepticon, which leads into I do have to paint up some Overdrive minis, which are a bunch of the giants from Dreadball, among which is a Forge Father mech. I forget what the heck it's called. It has I think it has a different name in Overdrive. But
yeah, I can't remember its name either.
I've always like one of the designs that I've wanted to do in Dead Zone for the Forge Fathers Iron Ancestor mech, as it's called, is I always thought it would be cool, since it's kind of stocky, if I did a Gurren Lagann mashup, and I'm still planning to do that, but I might paint try out the color scheme on this guy for fun. But yeah, so that's been a big part of it. I've been trying to do a lot more 3D printing, though as we speak, my printer is laying on its side with its circuit board opened up.
Oh
no! The heating unit, the hot end as it's called, got disconnected, and so I had to replace that part. And I'm slowly working on doing so. It's something that should really only take like maybe an hour or two. I'm on day 3, and
making sure you don't short anything out and zap yourself.
Well, it's more of just like only kind of working on it here and there, and like trying to follow this video tutorial and everything like that, and like today I finished threading the whole thing through, like started screwing it all back up, and then stood the thing up, and as I'm going to put the fan back over the top of the hot end, I realized that I had a whole, like the cords for the fan cords are all like too far out of the like umbilical cable that you kind of tuck all the cords into. And I was just like, well, I can't shove them up, so I had to tip it back over, unscrew the whole thing, and do it all again.
Oh, jeez.
So it's been a bit of a process, but I feel like after getting a house and doing projects like that, I'm like, maybe I should just learn to do electrical things.
It is scary. I replaced my motherboard on my FDM printer, and it was scary because you don't want to screw it up, and there's so many little screws, and you're like, okay, make sure this is in the right spot, and I
some
took like
fragile
1,000
tiny
pictures.
parts.
Yeah, and it all has to fit like in a small little space too, so it's like wire management was the issue for sure.
And then it did, like while I was actually, as I was starting my Northern Alliance project, one last project that I actually did is that I think I mentioned previously that I had gotten one of the booster packs for Dead Zone of the GCPS, the Riot Troopers attack drone, and then I put together my own little version of the Ogre as a like mecha battle suit. I have actually now painted those. So I've got, I did the Riot Troopers as basically kind of a gym style, where it's kind of red torso, shield with the little yellow cross on it and stuff like that. Turned out really nice. And then, but I was really happy with how my ogre battle suit actually turned out. I opted to go with a kind of a gun cannon paint scheme, even though it doesn't really have like a single shoulder cannon. It didn't quite fit aesthetically, but like that paint scheme really pops and it looks really sharp. I'll have to send you guys a picture. I've posted them online, but yeah. So I did that right before I finished, or I started onto my my Northern Alliance, because they were all getting primed, and it's like, well, these guys have been sitting here. Let's paint them up. So I've actually been doing stuff. It's weird. How about you, Rob?
For Christmas, from my buddy Jack, I did get a Gundam model, and it was the Arios, and it's a transforming one. It's one that turns into a plane, and nice. It was pretty cool. It was a pain to do something that is going to transform. It was a little more complex than your average Gunpla, but and transforming it is fraught with disaster, since things just fall off, because you know how model kits are.
What grade was it?
Oh, it's just a regular, what do they call it? I don't know. I can't remember what grades. Master grade?
Master grade? Yeah.
Yeah.
Or high grade.
I can't remember now. Jeez, you ask me hard questions.
High grade's kind of a smaller set. Master grade's a bit bigger.
It was 144. It was HG.
I think that's high grade.
Yeah.
That's high grade.
Yeah. So
I like how we know that. Is that 144? Yeah, that's high grade.
Yeah, that's what most of mine are. I have very few larger scale ones, but yeah, it was fun. But that's why I think it's the first Gundam that I had that transforms, and it was neat. Other than transforming. It's not. I'm used to Transformers where they actually stay in one piece when you transform them, not model kits. So, but it was a fun little model. I haven't done a model in a while, so it was good to get back into that. Other than that, I think I talked about last time that I was 3D printing Sentinels from the X-Men, so I'm printing more of those, which is fun. And you gotta have army build the Sentinels to fight your X-Men. So I've been doing that, 3D printing stuff for that. I did have to get a new 3D printer because I cracked the screen on my old ones, so on my old resin one. So I have a new Photon Mini, which I'm using, which I like a lot. So that's fun. And other than that, that's it. I haven't done any other modeling. I haven't painted anything in a long time. I print tons of mechs. That's another thing I did, actually. I designed my own infantry for Battletech at 6mm. Man, those are small and fragile, because they're little teeny little guys. And I did them on the base already, so they're a little 6mm guys. I think there's 10 in each base. So, because I don't have any infantry for my Battletech, so not like I'll probably ever use infantry, but it's good to have. So I wanted to do some of those, so I designed that and made that, and it was I can see them getting smashed pretty easily, because 6mm guys, if you're doing like true scale, not like little stubby guys, they're pretty small. I was surprised. I was used to like elementals. I think they're 11mm, the elementals, so they're like almost double the height. Yeah, and thicker, obviously, because they're elementals. So, yeah, these little guys, they're teeny. Other than that, I don't think I've done anything. So, at least I built a model this month. That was a good start.
Yeah.
I still have my Thundercracker. I think it's Thundercracker I got from the Furai model that was going to change into Acid Storm, but they just recently announced that they're going to make an Acid Storm. So
yeah, I saw that.
I might have to change my mind. If I wait long enough, they'll make every other Seeker. I can just design my own Seeker. Maybe that's the way to go. Yeah. So that's about it for a Dropship. We'll come back with some ComStar.
Message from ComStar.
I'm Brian.
And I'm Rick.
From Dead Zone the Podcast.
And you're listening to
Mobile Armor Radio.
And this is ComStar. We're here. TVs, movies,
We've
books,
made
comics, RPGs, video games, all things that I have not done this month. I will say there is some news. Someone is making Exo Squad miniature game. The link is in the notes. Facebook game, facebook.com, Exo Squad Operation Destiny. But
it's a Facebook game. For some reason, I thought, you said Facebook, and in my head, I heard Kickstarter.
No, it's not Kickstarter. Not yet. It's just a miniature game.
On its way, for sure. Similar
to the Gundam one someone was doing. That's a fan project. But it's an Exo Squad. Anybody remember Exo Squad back in the day? It was a classic cartoon. Ahead of its time. It was actually an ongoing story, which is unusual for North American cartoons at the time.
I think I remember that one, actually.
I should actually go see if it's on YouTube or something, rewatch it. It's been a long time. Maybe it's not as good as I remember it, but at the time, I remember it being very good. Speaking of Kickstarters, though, Robotech is going back to Kickstarter, for this time from Kids Logic. So it's not Palladium. They're not coming back from the dead. It's Kids Logic are doing that game they already released, the dogfight game, but they're bringing it to Kickstarter now, which I don't know if that's a good sign or a bad sign. That seems kind of weird to me, but it was overpriced before, so I'm not too excited about this Kickstarter, but we'll have to see when it actually gets released. They just announced it, so yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, hopefully it goes well. I know Robotech hasn't had a good track record of Kickstarter projects in the past in general.
Not for their miniature games. For other games,
not
like
for their miniatures,
card games and stuff, they've done well. But yeah.
Yeah, because I remember they back. Oh man, this was years ago now, where they tried to do like, help us fund like a pilot episode of a series.
Oh really?
But they were looking for like a lot of money. I think Carl Masick was still alive when that happened. So to kind of date it, or it was close around that time that he passed. So the times have certainly changed. Like you're saying, with Palladium kind of in the back, the rear view mirror, with all these other companies kind of taking up the Robotech license, it's kind of neat, actually. I know people really like their Robotech stuff, and it's neat to see sort of a breath of fresh, air coming back into that franchise, even though at the same time it is just kind of like rehashing old stuff. But I don't know. I think there's
new types of games,
there,
which is kind of cool, like the all those card games and the Attack on SDF-1 and things like that. Like there is a different amount of games. Like I think when Palladium owned the exclusive rights, it tended to be role-playing games, and then they tried a mini game. That's it. They didn't step outside the comfort zones of anything. So now we getting all over the place, all different stuff. So it's kind of cool that way. Yeah. The thing with the Kids Logic one is also it's dual branded with Macross too. So it's both, so they can sell it worldwide, which is kind of cool.
Nice.
And we'll see. I love the miniatures, but it's just I think the game was overpriced. I think it only came with like 3 miniatures, and it was like $100 or something. It was crazy pricing. So maybe with this Kickstarter, they'll add more miniatures, or they'll improve the pricing. Although I'm sure shipping, because they're based in Hong Kong, I'm sure shipping is going to be killer nowadays. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Everything's more expensive. Yeah. Other news: IDW has lost the rights to G.I. Joe and Transformers. Once again, I think we might have mentioned that, but it's official now. And they'll cease publication by the end of the year, but they have a lot planned for the Transformers. They're going to do like a big send-off for them and stuff, because it might even be I know for G.I. Joe it is, but it might even be for Transformers too. It's a anniversary year. I can't remember which anniversary. 40 maybe?
I mean, technically every year's an anniversary.
Yeah, that's true. This is a big anniversary year. I think it might be 40. But yeah, so they're losing the license, which is bad for IDW, but supposedly the rumor is Skybound's going to pick it up, which is Robert Kirkman from Walking Dead's company, but that isn't official yet, so we'll see. I'm amazed Disney and Marvel don't just pick it back up again, but maybe they decided it's not really worth it for them. They already own Star Wars. They don't need other stuff too, so.
No, not at all.
They like owning everything, so.
It's true. And they got Aliens back a couple years ago in Predator, so, from Dark Horse, so. Who knows? Maybe we'll see it'll be like Skybound's going to pay this much. Oh yeah? Disney just walks in and puts down one of their big bags of money that they swim in, and that's it. We'll see what happens. And last bit of news is Legendary, the company that makes movies and television shows, is making a live-action TV show based on the Godzilla MonsterVerse, which, that's kind of cool. With basically big stompy robots, but it's kaiju. That's close. And, that'll be interesting to see what they can do with that. I don't know. I wonder where it's going to be, like HBO or Netflix or Prime, hopefully, one of those three. And, get some actual budget involved.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, like, we the movies that we just kind of had come out with Godzilla, and then Kong Skull Island, and Godzilla King of the Monsters, and Kong versus Godzilla, like, those are like really solid movies. Like it was a really fun franchise to kind of follow, though it was one of those where it took them a while to really kind of get those movies out. And I know it was one of those things where it's like, is this kind of the end of that movie franchise after that last one came out?
King of the Monsters, was that the last one?
No, it was Kong versus Godzilla.
Oh, Kong, yeah, that's right. I forgot about that one.
Because it was Godzilla King of the Monsters, and then Kong versus Godzilla.
That's right. I don't think I've watched either of those yet, so I gotta catch up.
They're really fun, especially if you like. Yeah, especially if you like the old monster movies, and between that and like Shin Godzilla out there, like and all the Netflix stuff with Godzilla. There's like those anime series and all sorts of stuff.
There's definitely a lot of anime ones that are out. That's why they specifically said this was a live action show. It should be weird.
Yeah.
Other than that, what are you guys working on? Brian, what do you got watching or reading or anything? You doing anything?
Well, one of the news bits that you may have missed is that there have been kind of leaked screenshots of a new Armored Core game coming out.
Right. Yep.
So there's not a lot of details on that yet, but it is exciting to see that franchise make a comeback. Gosh, I haven't played one of those games since like the PlayStation 2 era, but Armored Core 3 was a heck of a lot of fun, and as a it was kind of the combination of really solid multiplayer for kind of an arena style battle, but it also had like a really solid single player campaign, and it was fast mechas, but they still kind of had a really good like grounding to them. They still felt really weighty and real. So it's really neat to see that franchise come back. So I'm excited for that. Apart from that, I have finally finished playing my Front Mission 3 replay. Though this was the first time I played this story route. Didn't end the way I was necessarily expecting, but it was a pretty fun game. I won't lie. Like if you're into the tactical battle type games, definitely check out the Front Mission ones. It's that kind of grid based style, and like I said before, I've been playing it on my PS3. You can still actually, I found that you can actually still log into the PlayStation Store and purchase PlayStation Classic games. I think they teased about shutting that down a while back, and apparently they didn't do it yet, because that's how I got the original Metal Gear Solid as well. But you can pick it up there. Otherwise, at this day and age, it's okay to emulate it. So that was a big like, I've actually finished that. And then I also happened to get, as far as holiday gifts from folks, I got the full collection of Votomes on Blu-ray.
Oh, nice.
So,
nice.
So I've never seen the show, but I've known about it for a long while, so I'm really excited to kind of dive into that one.
I'll tell you right now, the first section is a little slow going, but after that it gets amazing. So push through.
Gotcha. And then the other one that I've got was on the book side of things. I got Bad Dog by Ashley Pollard. I think we've talked about that franchise or that book series on the show before, but I've finally got a copy of the book myself. So yeah, I'm gonna have a fun time reading that one. I think I'll have to figure out exactly when I'm gonna start reading it.
Find time to actually read. Yeah.
Yeah. Other things that I did. I in kind of the Mantic Dead Zone side of things. I think I may have mentioned in December was kind of the finale of the writing contest, and since that was the last time we recorded, I was still working on said story. I did manage to finish writing mine the day before it was due, so that was really fun. It was kind of revisiting some of the characters I've already kind of created and bringing them in a way kind of all if sometimes tangentially, but for the most part kind of bringing them all into a series of events together. And it was just kind of fun to do. I had, I wrote 4 short stories over the course of the year. And then we're starting up again with a new writing contest already. So we get a theme every quarter, and that's what we, write about. So the new one is Euphoria. So I'll figure out how to work that in, I guess.
Yeah. It's going to be a lot of drug use.
I think the guy was thinking more along the lines of like, oh man, I'm going to have to read all these romance stories now. But we'll see. I'm still kicking around a couple ideas on what that might look like. But yeah, I'm trying to think of. I feel like I did like play another game series or something like that real quick. But I did get Metroid Dread as well, so I'm excited to dive into that one. I've heard a lot of good things about that game series. I've enjoyed specific entries in the Metroid series in the past, and ironically not always the ones that people are like, yeah, like Super Metroid. I'm like, I didn't have a Super Nintendo, so I played Fusion on Game Boy Advance. But I know one of the big things in there is that the villains are I think they're big robots, and our plucky hero Samus has to fight them. So I'm excited to get into that franchise. I think that'll be fun.
Nice.
And that should put a wrap on stuff that I did, I think.
Patrick, what have you been up to? Anything good?
No.
Come on.
Honestly, nothing.
You're doing nothing but sitting at home at not your home watching TV. You can't watch some mech shows for us?
I didn't watch any mech shows. I'm sorry.
There's got to be some out there somewhere.
No, I'm just trying to catch up on my... Well, I did watch some of the shows that we were going to be talking about at MechBay Hanger, but honestly, I've been just working a lot of overtime.
You and your work. Working and not being home, that's your MO this month.
It's gotta make that money.
When you get that call from the contractor, well, your pipes are not to code anymore.
Overtime it is.
Yeah, overtime it is. And, or you need a new electrical panel now because you've added all these plugs and all these other things your wife wanted. Now your electrical panel is not big enough to handle all the power in your house.
Yeah, it's only going to get worse.
Or you buy a shower unit that's illegal in the state of Illinois and you can't use it now. You have to buy another one.
Why is it how can you have an illegal shower?
I have no idea.
It smuggles drugs.
Yeah. What does it do that's illegal? What did you spring for?
So
There's
yeah,
certain things that are
It
just
comes
ethically,
with a gun.
immorally wrong in that shower. That's all I'm saying. Well, there you go. That was ComStar for us. And next month, Pat, do something.
Tell us more tales about this illegal shower.
Yeah.
well, honestly, I should be back at my house in the next 2 weeks. So then,
There you go.
yeah,
You'll be
Then
hard at work
life
doing
will-
things.
life will be back to normal.
There you go. Well, we'll move on to the MechBay Hanger. We'll actually discuss something that you can discuss. Because you'll have done your homework, I hope.
I did.
Good.
Now entering the MechBay Hanger.
And welcome to the MechBay Hanger. We're going to be talking about something in this dark, dark time, in this dark, dark world. We're looking for a little humor. So I decided to say, let's talk about some mech shows that are humorous, or parts of shows that have some humor in them. And we'll try to liven up everybody's terrible February, because it's cold and dark and cold. So anyways, I'll start. I might as well. I'm just going to... first one's a quick one, because it's the first anime I watched as a kid, and it was the first time I was like, oh, this could be funny too. Is in Robotech? I can't even see Robotech anymore. When the micronized... Robotech. Micronized Zentradi infiltrate the ship, and and you think, oh god, they're going to cause trouble. It's like a terrorist operation, and they get there and they end up just falling in love with everything and eating ice cream and joking around and stalking Minmay. And it was like, oh, that's a little humor. So I enjoyed that.
The harmless stalking of Minmay.
Well, I'm pretty sure they weren't the only ones stalking Minmay. She was kind of, she was
True.
stalkable. It wasn't like she was hiding behind some guards. She worked at her...
Which was the fashion at the time, as Old Man Simpson says.
Yes.
Which was the fashion of the time.
We wore onions on our belts. Yeah, it wasn't like nowadays you couldn't get close to she's literally like the biggest superstar on the ship, which is the world for them. And she works at her is it her parents or aunt and uncle's noodle shop?
I think in Robotech it was her aunt and uncle.
Yeah.
Probably that and Mac too, honestly.
And so it's not like she was hard to get near. So, anyways, Conda, Rico, and Braun in Robotech, and funny stuff, because they're supposed to be blowing up stuff and spying, and they just end up eating a lot and screwing around. So that's my first one. We'll move to Brian. What's your first humor show or instant in a show?
Well, this one does kind of fall more into the instant moment. It does kind of keep, like you were saying earlier, about these dark, dark times, and it's cold. So I'm going to go with Gundam 0080 War in a Pocket, which is not the happiest story ever told. But there is one really kind of fun moment that if you're paying attention, you'll catch it, and you might get a good little laugh out of it. As our Xeon character and / protagonist, hero, you might say, Bernie, is infiltrating a Earth Federation forces laboratory to kind of try and sabotage the Gundam being built there. He gets questioned by a guard on where he's from, and he just happens to say, "Oh, I'm from Sydney, Australia." And the guard's like, "Oh yeah, well, what's it like this time of year?" And he's like, "Oh, it's all covered in snow." And then like a couple beats go by, and they part ways, and all of a sudden the guard comes running back at them, and he's like, "Hey, it's summer in Australia," and a big shootout ensues. But the funny thing to me, like that in and of itself is kind of a fun chuckle, but just kind of knowing that Sydney, Australia is probably the only place Bernie knows by name, because Xeon dropped a colony on the continent down there, and it's gone. Like, it's a big hole in the ocean now. Like, there's no summer in Australia because Australia's gone. So that was always a moment that I kind of got a little kick out of, and the rest of that show is kind of depressing. So it was fun to have that. How about you, Pat?
So early on in my
Rewatch?
Research?
rediscovery of Gundam,
Yes.
I ran into this cartoon on Toonami. It was called Martian Successor Nadesico. Nadesico.
However you
I
really
don't
want to pronounce it, it's up to you.
Yeah, but it was in the late 90s on Toonami, Cartoon Network and all that stuff. Basically, it's a kind of parody on mechs and with a cross of space battleship Yamato. And it's basically a comedy, and just a comedy in general. The whole thing is just weird and kind of silly. I guess the basic plot of the story, I'm trying to remember it a little bit here, is that it's in the future. Earth is at war with a race of aliens. I can't remember them, but they were lizard-looking kind of aliens, and and this company on Earth makes a space battleship with I can't remember what they're called, but they had human combat robots that people piloted to fight the lizards, and so that's the background. And the primary protagonist is a guy named Akito, who was basically lived in Mars and ended up on Earth and doesn't remember how he get there. All he knows, he just has a fear of the lizards, and he hates fighting them and only wants to be left alone to cook because he wants to be a chef, not a fighter. But he turns out to be probably the best robot pilot they have on the ship. So it's always like him just winning fights, but then wanting to cook. And
it's like Steven Seagal.
To make it even more funnier is that all the girls, including the captain of the ship, are all head and heels in love with him, but he doesn't want any part of him. He just wants to cook and watch his favorite anime, which is a mech anime. Even I remember one of the episodes too. They get back to Earth, and the whole crew and him and some of the other pilots all go to cosplay at this anime convention as the favorite anime characters of the cartoon they watch in the anime.
Nice.
So it was a little silly and just kind of what's the word? A little parody on mechs and mech animes in general. So which is what I liked about it.
It's kind of funny how there have been, like, especially around that era, was like there were a lot of like parody shows that kind of sprouted up for genre specific ones, even with some of those genres still being kind of fresh and new, at least for an American audience. I could say is like, because obviously Gundam's been around like since the 70s, but we were just getting a lot of that stuff in the 90s, and like on mainstream, like you're saying, on Toonami. So it's like all those parody series coming out were a lot of fun. They a lot of them did have some good like character to them and made for some good laughs.
Yeah, I mean, like I remember one of the characters who was a pilot was a voice actress for an anime, and then was another pilot who was a big nerd of that anime that everyone watched in the TV show, and to the point where he I know the Japanese word for it is otaku, so I don't know how to describe it, where they basically just lived their life as that anime, and so he was so it was just the fact that
LARPing.
Yeah, basically a LARPer.
Not to poo-poo LARPing. It's a fun pastime for people, but to the extreme for this guy.
Yeah, so it's pretty funny. It really does make fun of the super robot mecha of the 70s and 80s for sure.
Nice.
What's your next one, Rob?
My next one is a show. When you said Toonami, I was like, oh, I just remember. I'm just adding it to the list now because it's Megas XLR. It was an American show, and it was pretty much a couple of losers find a giant stompy robot and modify it to be like a hot rod kind of. And they get into wacky adventures because the robot was built to fight these alien invaders, and it's a funny show. And it's like it was before like Venture Brothers and all those kind of shows, but it had the same feel. I remember thinking like, this is ahead of its time, this show. It only lasted like 2 seasons, and I think it was, once again, too far ahead. It was a little too adult for the times. And I remember being awesome. So Megas XLR, and I believe every single episode is up on YouTube, so go check it out. That's the key nowadays. Go to YouTube and find these old cartoons to watch. And yeah, that's my second one. Brian, what about you? What you got?
So this one is to continue a little bit with the Gundam thing. It is a little more meta because it harkens back to one of my earlier, I'll put in air quotes, claims to fame in the Gundam community is that myself and a buddy of mine, Nick Izumi, did this review of the Gundam Seed Destiny movies, and which our review of it turned out to be longer than the movies themselves. Mm-hmm. But there's a really fun point where the character of Atherin is deciding to defect from the force that he's been fighting with all this time, and he believes that his old friend from Gundam Seed is dead and everything like that, and so he's running away. He gets shot down, and cuts to black, and then he wakes up and he's in an infirmary on a ship somewhere, and people start like walking in to greet him. And one of the fun things that we did on our review is we kind of joke that Atherin was totally dead, and he believes it too, because he's like, well, everyone that starts walking into the room are people that he believes are dead, right? So it's like, well, I know, Kira, you just died, and you were with me, so you're dead too. Mula Flaga, what the heck are you doing here? You are totally dead, because you died in the first series. And it's just one of those kind of meta things where the show, it was kind of the tipping point for the show, honestly, where it really kind of lost sight of what it set out to do, I think. And because then we really kind of started following those characters again. But it was just kind of that funny thing where this character like is waking up, and everyone that's paraded in front of him is someone that he believes is dead. And it's like, no, I have to be dead. There's no way I can be alive because you are all dead. So Gundam Seed Destiny is a riot, we'll say. It goes well, and then like halfway through movie 3, i.e. like 3/4 of the way through the show, it takes a turn, and it suffers for it, in my opinion. But yeah, how about you, Pat? What's your next one?
My next one is another one that I saw when I was in Japan, actually, when I was touring. And it was a little funny show called Die Guard. And it basically, a couple episodes I saw, was basically a kind of kaiju-based attack, and this corporation builds this robot for the army. And before the robot's done and built, they were able to kill this thing with this big giant bomb. So they hurry up and finish building the robot, and then pretty soon there are no more kaiju attacks. So they're just left with this company is just left with this kind of useless robot. So now it becomes a political corporate tool to do, for promotions. It gets relegated down to a promotions department. And then the kaijus come back, and now the army wants it back, and the corporation is trying to figure out how to make money. So it's kind of like a satire of military politics and corporate politics. And it kind of gave me a feel like if you put a mech inside the office.
Nice.
So you have the blithering idiot leader, and then you have the headstrong pilot, but all he wants to do is make sure all the people are safe. And then you have the military liaison, who's just, who doesn't care who gets hurt, just he wants the robot.
Nice.
So and it ends with the military actually building their own finally, based off the designs of the original. But then there were tons of different type of kaiju. I'm calling them kaiju, but I don't remember because I don't remember what they called them. But they were like almost like plant based and different types. They were like I don't know what's the word. They were like not plant. I guess there was some because there was a mushroom one, and then there was one they called the pyramid, and it looked like a pyramid.
Is it based on those like muscle men? Remember those old rubbery toys? That's what it sounds like.
Oh, like the Armstrong or whatever they were.
Well, no,
Stretch Armstrong, yeah.
Stretch Armstrong.
These were like little, and they're like they came originally just in pink, like a real bad pink color, and they're almost like erasers, but they weren't. And it was just I can't remember what they're called, but it sounds like there was always those kind of weird monsters in that set. So it sounds like.
Yeah, so there was a lot of hijinks and everything with the controlling of the robot and trying to get it to fight against the kaiju and stuff. So it was a nice little satire on politics and military intelligence kind of a thing.
Cool. My last one is the funniest of all, and that's the original OVA for Pat Labor. And man, that you watch the movies and it's so serious, and even the TV shows were a bit serious, but that original OVA was so funny. Like, yeah,
but the TV show, because I'm going to piggyback on you because that was my last one too. Was still had its funny moments though, because it was more about the interactions of the cops than it is about everything else. So,
but that original OVA was like slapstick almost. You get Oda using his gun and destroying half the city with instead of like stopping the other robots have gone crazy, and Asuma and Noah just fighting all the time, and it was in the original series too. They had the part where what's his name, the captain and the other captain from the other section had to go stay at a hotel together, and they were all this misunderstandings happen, and
yeah.
It's a great series.
That's what I liked about Pat Labor. It was almost like the human side of just characters being silly or bored and reckless.
And that's what the movies were so different from the TV show. That's the weird part about that they were so serious and so earnest compared to the TV show. So I enjoyed the TV show.
That last one with the giant monster thing that's like eating people.
That was weird.
Like,
that was a weird one.
And then they, the mechs show up for the last like confrontation with them. It's like,
even the first one, it was all about a coup from the government, and it was all about the cops trying to suss it out, and they don't actually show up until the very end. Yeah, very odd. Very odd, the movies. Anyways, that was my third one, and Pat's third one, it seems like. So, Brian, what else you got?
All right. Well, I'll throw out two then. One to kind of help out with Pat. So, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention Full Metal Panic Fumofu.
I was going to do that one too, and I figured you'd do it. And I was also going to mention, Gurren Lagann in itself is a comedy because it took everything to the extreme.
Yeah, Gurren Lagann is really, it has some great hilarious moments because it is so absurd. Full Metal Panic Fumofu is another great one out there where the original Full Metal Panic was kind of it walked a really fun line between comedic, fish out of water moments of this very serious like soldier being an undercover high school student to protect this one classmate of theirs, and misreading social cues and everything like that, thinking everything is out to attack her when it's like, no, she has to go to the principal's office. No, she forgot to do her homework, or really mundane things that he just overreacts on. So Fumofu was the second season for the show, and it kind of leaves off the more serious components of the franchise, where it was, about, socio-political militaries and mercenary soldiers and paramilitary groups and stuff like that, and all sorts of other stuff, and just focused on the comedy. It's got slapstick. You've got the character of Sosuke Sagara is running around in the mascot, which is this like teddy bear looking thing, and he's got a shotgun that shoots beanbags, and so it acts kind of like a Pokemon, where he always says like "Fumofu, whoa," so that they don't realize it's him. It's also that he can disguise himself when he goes to protect these characters, and it's just a blast. So definitely check that one out if you have any interest in that series. Like it's rock solid all the way through. It's a really fun ride. The other one I was gonna throw out there, and this might be one that might win over some folks from the Robotech side of things. I'm going to talk a little bit about Macross 7. So Macross 7 was the first kind of full sequel series to the original Macross. In Macross 7, we follow Space John Lennon as he flies around in his transforming mech straight out of Macross Plus. It's the YF-19 is the one that made it through trials. So it's got those inverted wings. And what he does is he's a pacifist, right? So he goes into these, dogfight battles, and rather than shoot a gun that has bullets in it, he is a rocker at heart. And so his gun shoots little speaker pods that like drive themselves into the mech, like the cockpits of the mechs that he shoots with this, because he's a really good pilot. I should also mention he uses a Guitar Hero controller to pilot his mech. And then he just rocks out to get them to stop fighting. And they got basically the Japanese equivalent of Bon Jovi to play his songs, and the music in Macross 7 it runs the gambit, because you hear these songs a lot, but a lot of them are really good. Tokugeki Love Heart, and like Submarine Street, and Flash in the Dark, like there's a whole mess of them, and the series itself has outrageous moments. On top of that, there's a time where he sings to a space whale. He's got this whole past about when he used to sing at a mountain to try and get it to move, and just other little character moments within the series. It's another really long series. We actually get to see Max and Miria from Macross. This is basically his SDF expedition force. He and his wife go on. And ironically, one of their kids is also in this band with Neki Basara. And but I think one of the crowning comedic moments in this, apart from the song Dynamite Explosion, which you should all look up. Just look up Dynamite Explosion, Macross 7.
I was going to say, make sure you put little things on the internet.
So normally when Neki fights, and he uses his music to calm, the forces that he fights against. It's not just Zentradi. There's a whole bunch of other alien races he comes across. There's a really funny reaction when they run into a group of Meltlandi, so the female Zentradi. And it just so happens that rather than be pacified by his music and his culture, they practically go feral as fangirls as they like fight each other over him. It's just this really fun kind of turn because, we've seen for episode on episode on episode, him using his music to calm his opponents, and then to have it see it like kind of come back at him as like, no, you've just made them more like insane as they fangirl over him. So it's a fun series. It doesn't take itself too seriously. I think if you enjoy a series like G Gundam, you'd probably enjoy Macross 7. And it has a lot more rock music. So that's my case to go watch Macross 7.
There you go. Yep. Anything else, Dad?
No, I've talked long enough.
Pat, do you have anything else?
No, just watch, check out those little funny shows.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a lot of... Go ahead, Pat.
Yeah, really check out the OVAs for Pat Labor.
Yeah, if you're going to watch anything, watch that. But, yeah, it's dark, it's cold, and you need some humor in your lives. Go watch some funny mech anime. Because there's a lot of it. There's a lot of it out there.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah. If anything, we always like to expose new shows to people, so hopefully somebody goes and watches one of these things for the first time and enjoys it.
Dynamite, dynamite, dynamite explosion once again.
There you go. We're going to go to ExFil.
There's your taste.
We're getting sung to the ExFil with...
Let's ExFil out of here.
And here we are. We're in the ExFil. We're exiting this this show for another month. We'll be back with 45 in the March. And hopefully by then it'll start warming up because I'm still very cold.
Yeah. And I'll be back in my own home.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
We'll be getting ready for Adepticon.
Well, we'll see. And yeah, so if you want to check us out in other places, Pat and I do a video show on YouTube with our buddy Jack talking about Dragon Magazine. We're going through every single issue chronologically. It's called The Dragon's Tome, Tome, and just search the old YouTubes for that. And Brian is over on Dead Zone the Podcast. Anything exciting coming up on that show, Brian?
I've got to get the episode posted in the next 2 days, but no, just some crazy ravings of things to come in Dead Zone and future projects. They're going to do another global Dead Zone campaign sometime later this year, so that's super exciting. And yeah, we're just nerding out about these games that we really love.
That's right. Until then, I've been Rob.
I've been Brian.
I've been Shaba.
And we'll be back for another show. See you then.
Stay warm.
Hi, everybody.
So cold. So very cold.
This has been Mobile Armor Radio. Join our Facebook group by searching for Mobile Armor Radio. Find us on Twitter at @MArmorRadio. Find us on iTunes and visit our website, mobilearmorradio.podbean.com. Join us on the first of every month for more mecha discussion.